At first, the pattern was dismissed as coincidence. Alien tacticians noticed it in after-action reports, buried beneath casualty tables and debris maps. Human units entered a theater. Enemy priorities shifted. Engagements escalated. Someone always died more violently than planned. At first, it was blamed on human unpredictability, then aggression, then desperation. Only later did the galaxy accept the truth. Wherever humans stood, the war bent toward them, and wherever the war bent, it broke. The Threxian High War Chamber was silent, an unnatural state for a species that thrived on controlled chaos. Commander Vor'kesh stood at the center of the chamber, talons folded behind his back, his segmented armor pulsing faintly with amber light. His eyes, faceted, unblinking, studied the hololithic projection rotating above the floor. A star system, 3 wrecked fleets, 1 recurring anomaly. Humans. Vor'kesh did not rage, he calculated. "The data is not flawed," he said at last, his voice calm enough to unsettle the lesser commanders gathered around him. "We have reviewed it 6 times. A junior strategist shifted nervously. "Commander, the humans were not the largest force in any engagement." "No," Vor'kesh agreed, "which makes this worse." He gestured, and the projection shifted. Human ships, scarred, inefficient, overbuilt, appeared at the center of each engagement map. Enemy forces clustered around them. Fire intensified. Formations collapsed. "The enemy does not chase human victory. They chase human presence," Vor'kesh continued. Captain Xal'rok stepped forward from the shadows. Where Vor'kesh was precision, Xal'rok was violence given form. His armor was heavier, scarred from previous campaigns, his energy blade resting casually against one shoulder. His eyes burned with a predator's impatience. "They provoke, they invite annihilation. Remove them first." Vor'kesh turned his gaze toward him. "That assumption has already cost us 2 battle groups." Xal'rok smiled, a sharp, humorless baring of teeth. "Then we remove them harder." The chamber fell quiet again, and across the stars the humans prepared to prove them right. On the command carrier Resolute, Commander Elena Valerius watched tactical feeds scroll past her without comment. The enemy had changed behavior. That alone concerned her more than open hostility ever could. "They're ignoring the flanks," an officer reported. "Threxian formations are tightening toward our position." Valerius nodded once. "Of course they are." She didn't ask why. Humans never did. "John," she said calmly, "I want eyes forward and ugly." John Thorne's voice crackled back through the channel, relaxed despite the incoming fire. "Already there, Commander." His reconnaissance craft danced between bursts of Threxian plasma, hull screaming in protest as near misses rattled the frame. Alien fire control systems struggled to track him. Too fast, too erratic, too human. "They're targeting us exclusively now," Thorne added. "Feels personal." Valerius allowed herself the ghost of a smile. "Good. That means they're afraid." The Threxians struck first. Energy lances carved through space, bypassing Allied fleets entirely to converge on the human formation. Alien commanders had made their decision. End the humans. The rest would collapse. They were half right. On the assault carrier Gravemark, Marek Volkov felt the deck shudder beneath his boots as shields flared and failed. "Direct hits incoming," someone shouted. Volkov rolled his shoulders, checking the seals on his armor. About time. Around him, human infantry moved with practiced efficiency. No speeches, no prayers. Pain was expected. Survival was optional.
Mission was not. Sergeant Miller stepped into the breach chamber, fastening his helmet without ceremony. "They want us first," Miller said. "I say we don't disappoint." Volkov grinned. "After you."
Below decks, Sarah Chen stared at the damage readouts with clinical focus. They were being overwhelmed. That was acceptable. "What's our structural tolerance?" she asked. Arthur Sterling didn't hesitate. "Past spec, way past." "Good," Chen replied. "Then we still have room." She rerouted power from non-essential systems, comfort, stabilization, redundancy, into the hull and engines. Human ships groaned, metal screamed, and still they held. Alien engineers would have called it insanity. Human engineers called it margin.
The Threxian command fleet closed in. Captain Xal'rok watched the human formation tighten under fire and snarled. "They're refusing to scatter." "They always do," Vor'kesh replied. He had studied their history now, their wars, their catastrophes. Humans did not flee disaster. They moved toward it. "Signal all units," Vor'kesh commanded. "Total annihilation, no restraint." Xal'rok's blade ignited fully. Finally. The first boarding torpedoes struck human hulls. Threxian shock troops poured through the breaches with lethal precision. They were faster than humans, stronger, more disciplined, and entirely unprepared. Miller met the first wave head-on. He used no finesse, only momentum. Threxian soldiers learned, in seconds, that human endurance was not a statistic, it was a weapon. Miller fought through wounds that should have dropped him, using debris, bodies, and brute force to turn confined corridors into killing fields. "They don't stop," a Threxian officer transmitted in panic. "Even when injured." The transmission ended abruptly.
Volkov's team breached a Threxian cruiser amid controlled chaos. Gravity fluctuated wildly. Alarms screamed in alien frequencies. Volkov welcomed it. He hurled himself into combat, using his own mass as a weapon, slamming enemies into bulkheads with bone-crushing force. Threxian warriors were trained for decisive engagements. Humans excelled at attrition. One by one, resistance failed. On the bridge of the Resolute, Valerius watched enemy formations falter, not because they were losing ships, but because they were losing certainty. "They're overcommitting," Thorne reported. "Every time we move, they chase." "Let them," Valerius replied. She opened a fleet-wide channel. "All units," she said evenly, "you know what to do." Human ships advanced, not tactically optimal, not strategically sound, psychologically devastating. Commander Vor'kesh observed the shift with cold clarity. "They are drawing us in," he said. Xal'rok laughed. "Then we drown them." But even as he spoke, doubt crept into the Threxian ranks. Human ships refused to disengage. Human soldiers refused to retreat. Human engineers refused to let systems fail. The battle was no longer about territory. It was about endurance, and humans had no upper limit. Sarah Chen watched containment fields fail across multiple enemy vessels. "They're pushing reactors beyond safety margins," Sterling noted. Chen nodded. "They're trying to match us." "That ends badly." "For them," she agreed. The breaking point came without warning. A Threxian capital ship, overloaded, destabilized, detonated in a chain reaction that tore through its own formation. Human ships surged through the chaos. Volkov emerged from the wreckage, armor scorched, breathing hard but alive.
Miller limped back aboard the Gravemark, bloodied but grinning. "They really wanted us," he said. "Guess we delivered."
When the battle finally ended, silence followed. Not victory cheers, not relief, just quiet. The Threxians withdrew, not in defeat, but in recognition. Commander Vor'kesh watched the human fleet regroup, battered but unbroken. "They are not the strongest," he said softly. Xal'rok said nothing. "They are not the fastest, not the most advanced." Vor'kesh turned away from the projection. "But wherever they stand, war accelerates." Across the galaxy, the conclusion spread. Enemies stopped asking if humans would be present. They began planning for the disaster that followed. Because now everyone understood. The enemy always targeted humans first, not because it was smart, but because leaving them for last was worse. The Threxians were the first to understand. Commander Vor'kesh watched entire battle lines collapse, not from superior firepower, but from human interference. Captain Xal'rok saw allies saved by actions that violated every rule of engagement. Humans didn't hold positions, they didn't wait for authorization, they didn't follow combat doctrine. They interrupted inevitability. And that was the problem. Because once enemies began targeting humans first, the galaxy discovered something even more terrifying. Humans didn't just survive chaos, they created it on purpose. And soon the Council would face a truth it was never prepared to admit. When everything goes wrong, when protocols fail, when rules guarantee extinction, humans will break them all. Next episode, no protocol can stop them.